You're wrong about your role in Overwatch. Maybe. Now, what do I mean by role exactly? I don't mean tank, DPS, support. I mean what each hero's job is in the game. Now, how might you be wrong about this? Well, let me explain. At the end of each game, while you may have won, you probably could have done something better. And this is true for all ranks. After all, everyone makes mistakes. However, I find that some mistakes are much worse than others, those that cause you to lose the game in ways that stats and even VOD reviewing sometimes might not even show you. An example of this is Zenyatta. If you're just sitting on cart all game with your Harmony Orb on a dive, while you might be helping a little bit, you would have much more value going into a fight and discording your teammates' targets and getting some picks yourself. Also, real quick, I should mention, you're gonna hear me say value a lot this video. So what is it? Value basically describes if what you're doing had a net benefit on the team fight or game as a whole. If you Sigma ult and only get one person, well, it's not a great ult, it still gets value as long as you finish off the kill. If you Kitsune and it stops your team from being pushed super hard, even if your team doesn't get picks from it, it still got value. If you force a Widowmaker to get off their sniping spot and play a different angle, that's value, even if you didn't get the kill. So just keep that in mind going through for the rest of the video. First, we'll start with tanks, then we'll go through each subclass of role and explain what they're meant to do and how they get value away from stats and other obvious things. With dive tanks, these are D.Va, Winston, Wrecking Ball, Doomfist, and Hazard. Whether you're playing them or have them on your team, hell, even if you're playing against them, they're pretty weird. Having one on your team can feel like you don't have a tank at all. Now, why is this? Well, simply, they're not in the front line. Instead, they cause chaos in the enemy's backline, causing them to pull back. It is crucial that with a dive tank on your team, you recognize when the enemy is backing up or when they're unable to, and capitalize on that opportunity. As what I see most teams do is fail to recognize that the enemy is vulnerable and basically cause your dive's value to be nullified. As a dive tank, your job is to take DPS off of angles and pick their supports. Your team can deal with their tank as long as you deal with the supports. Now, do you have to kill both supports to get value? No, not at all. As long as you make their supports look away instead of healing their tank, you're basically damaging their tank for all the healing you're negating. Along with that, forcing their DPS to look away can cause your team to take angles they previously wouldn't have been able to. Now, the most important part of all of this is that as a dive tank, you need to know how to disengage. How might you ask? Well, I'll use Winston as an example. Say you dive into their backline. If you notice they're doing a good amount of damage to you, jump back out towards your team. What I see too many Winstons do is dive into a fight, get kill hungry, use jump to either get a little bit of damage or to chase, and then die because they're overextending. This brings me to my next point. Manage your cooldowns. And honestly, this goes for everyone in the game. Keeping vital cooldowns for moments that you need it is crucial. Do not use Doomfist's or Winston's jump to chase. Don't use defensive abilities when you're not defending anything, that kind of stuff. On to Brawl tanks. These include Ramattra Nemesis form, Reinhardt, Orisa kind of, Roadhog, Zarya, Junker Queen, and Mauga, and just basically every tank in the game. As a Brawl tank, your job is to hold the front line, my brothers! But in all reality, it's not that simple. Your job is to punish the enemies for trying to take space. How so? Well, most of these heroes have very high burst damage that allows you to destroy up close DPS and supports. So if a support comes into range, they're your target. Same goes for DPS, but always prioritize supports first. As an example, say you're Roadhog. The enemy DPS and supports should be trembling in fear at the thought of getting within hook range. So if they do, grab them and do a cheeky one-shot. With Reinhardt, say their DPS are just a little too close to their tank, push back a little and hammer down! Or just swing at them, that also works. And then turn around and pin their tank into your backline. This leads to my next point. While this doesn't work with every Brawl tank, for those that are able to, take the enemy out of position. Basically use an ability or your fat hitbox to allow your team to secure a kill. This includes hooking their tank behind a wall and body blocking them, Rein pinning them towards your team, and Orisa spinning them into a wall. Whatever it may be, just do something that allows your team to secure a kill. Along with this, defend your team. Allow your DPS to hold an angle they shouldn't be able to, and your supports to safely move to a new location. Also try and create openings for your team to exploit. This also goes for dive tanks too, but it's a little bit differently for them. What you want to do instead is say the enemy team is pushing past you, they're just kind of ignoring you and they're walking into your backline. What you want to do is you want to peel for your team. Try and get them to disengage in some way, because while being a dive tank is great, it does in the end create a situation where you do not have a front line, which most people will try and exploit by gaining space. The way you prevent that is by dealing with their supports and DPS or peeling back, which allows your team to have a higher morale and overall see that you're doing more, which usually works a little bit better. If you're on a coordinated team though, just keep staying in the back line. Your team should be playing more defensively, but if you do need to peel for them. Now into poke tanks. These include Sigma, Orisa, Ramattra normal form, and sometimes Hog. I should clarify quickly that these categories are pretty vague, as most tanks can be played in most comps, but these are just general generalizations. Like Hazard can also be played as a Brawl tank, D.Va can sometimes be a Brawl tank, some people can be Poke, some people can be Brawl. It's just weird. The categorizations are pretty, like, not set in stone. Anyways, as poke tanks, your job is to put pressure on the enemy backline from the front line. And I know it sounds weird to ignore the tank while they're right in front of you, but that's just what you're supposed to do. If you take out their supports before they take out yours, that means that now you can focus the tank without them being able to be healed, which means you get a free kill. Along with this, you're supposed to keep aggro of the enemy team while not taking that much damage. And how do you do this effectively? Well, usually you'll have some ability that allows you to deal damage without taking any, or taking less, or being able to mitigate the amount of damage you took or whatnot. For Amatra, it's a shield. For Sigma, it's a shield in his grasp. And for Orisa, it's her shield perk or her gold form. Hog has healing, which also applies. Along with this, trying to defend your team is a bit intertwined here, but there are times where the enemy will just not focus you no matter what. They will look past you and stuff like that. In cases like this, it is good to shield or body block for your teammates to allow them to get out of the position and find a better position. That's it for tanks, and real quick, if you're enjoying the video, make sure to like and subscribe. We just made it to 1,000, so thank you guys so much. This is a big milestone for me, and I will be doing a celebration stream Saturday, May 1st over on my Twitch. We'll be doing quick play and scrims with viewers, so make sure to head on over there if you're interested. Link is in the description. Anyways, back to the video. Now on to DPS. This one changes a lot depending on each DPS individually, so keep that in mind. The categories are a little bit different for DPS, and it's hard to find a clear-cut answer, so I'm going to go with the same 3 categories as tank. So let me know if you think someone should be in a different category in the comments. First, let's go with dive. As a dive DPS, your job is very similar, if not the exact same as dive tank. Just keep in mind you will need to be a bit more sneaky and careful, as you don't have nearly as much HP as a fat hunk of metal with a hamster inside. Along with this, you are expected to peel for your supports and protect them, since you have the movement to be able to. I see way too many Anran players dive into the enemy backline as there's a wrecking ball about to send your grandma to an early grave. For poke DPS, your job is to find angles where you can put pressure on the enemy team that will either make them back up or distract them away from your front line and cause crossfires. These angles are often referred to as off angles, as the enemy has to go off their target to focus you. Playing this role means you are not supposed to stand beside your team. If you do, you'll probably be picked off, as it's usually pretty hard to get close range kills with poke. So, set up on an angle away from your team, that off angle, and put pressure. Quick tip, try to make the off angle be near a health pack in case you catch a few stray bullets. On to Brawl DPS. These can be a bit weird, but usually you want to find closer off angles and put pressure. One of the biggest mistakes I see with DPS and supports is that they stand right behind the tank, causing them to take a lot of damage and be an extremely easy target, which in the end causes them to die. And while you may still want to hold close as a Brawl, try and hold somewhere off to the side of your tank rather than right behind them. This will allow them to take less damage and also cause the enemies to look away from your tank, which causes mismatched targeting and overall chaos in the enemy team, which allows the fight to be won easier. And lastly, on to supports. For supports, there are really two only classifications that I find matter, and I'm not going to say main and flex, because anytime that I do, some nerd in the comments just has to say, actually, use the terms ever so slightly wrong, so your opinion is invalid, blah, blah, blah. So for this, I'm going to use my own terms. I guess I'll use, I got it. Focus heals and no brain heals. These basically dumb down to, if you have to choose between healing and damage, it's a focus. And if you can damage and heal at the same time, it's a no-brain. So let's start with focus. The most important thing on a focus is that you do both healing and damage. If you heal bot the whole game, you will lose. If you damage the whole game, you will lose. So you have to learn a balance of healing and damage. On Ana, I find that 2 healing shots, 2 damage shots usually works out pretty well. For BAP, I find that 2 damage, 1 heal works. The specifics don't matter. Whatever you find works, go ahead. What matters is that you do not heal bot, no matter what. Heal botting is one of, if not the worst issue I see in lower ranks. Positioning also matters a huge amount here. If you have movement, you can hold closer to the team, but still try and stay out of the range of any enemies. Most supports have a good bit of range, meaning you can stay really far back and still get high damage. So try and hold an angle similar to that of a poke DPS, but instead behind your team, kind of like a triangle between your poke DPS and your tank. If you don't have a poke DPS, still try to stay in line of sight of your whole team, or at least majority, and try and hold that off angle. On to no brain. And I know this classification can feel a bit degrading, but trust me, it's not meant that way. So for now, I'll just call them NBH supports. NBH supports are supports that can do both damage and heal. Supports like Brig, Mizuki, and Lucio. Also, with these classifications, I will be considering Mercy and Jetpack Hat a different thing, so I'll get to those in a bit. As an NBH support, you want to stick as close to your team as possible while still staying in a safe position. Most of these supports either have good mobility or a way to not take damage, so you can play a bit more recklessly, but overall, the biggest piece of advice I can give is just to stay in a position where as many of your teammates benefit from your AoE healing as possible. And lastly, Mercy and Jetpack Hat. I would classify Mercy as a focus, however they don't really deal damage, but they also have to choose when to heal. So they're in this role. Same goes for Jetpack Hat. While they can be a very good focus, they also are insanely good for just carrying around a bastion and winning the game. So while you might not be healing or damaging, you're doing something amazing. So with these two, I'd say play with your team as much as possible, communicate with your team so that you can choose who to pocket and who to carry, and overall just be the glue of the team. That's why this role is going to be called the glue role. With that, I think I've covered mostly everything. If you feel that any of this helped you, or if you feel like I missed something, make sure to let me know down in the comments below. Thank you again so much for 1,000 subs. This is my dream, and I will be making a members video soon on the road to 1,000 subs, so make sure to check that out. Also, a quick thing, if you guys like Minecraft and would like to join a server with your fellow fans, the Phoenix SMP is going into season 2 on May 11th, so make sure to head over to the Discord for more info. Again, in the description. Thank you to Marbed, Araya, and AJ for the 2 or 3 subs over on Twitch, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day/night. Peace.